Hey everyone, Mr. Markwick here. The purpose of today's video is to look at the two different types of data and explain the difference and how they're usually displayed. So first of all, we're going to start looking at categorical data and then we'll look at numerical data and the difference between the two. So categorical data, as it says there, basically describes a particular quality or characteristic. The data is divided into categories. Information collected is called categorical data. Categorical data is broken up into either ordinal categorical or nominal categorical data. And ordinal categorical data is basically categorical data that can take an order, or it says here can be logically ranked. For example, low, medium, and high is an example of categorical data. If you're asked to do a survey and you're asked for your opinion in terms of agree, disagree, somewhat disagree, whatever, etc., that's also ordinal categorical data. Okay, so that will be an example there. Nominal categorical data is data that doesn't really have an order or a ranking. So for example, if we surveyed people and asked what color car they had, there would be real no order. So that's nominal categorical data. Okay, so categorical data is essentially, the way I like to explain it is, if you're collecting data and the response that you're getting is a word of some sort, so for example, low, medium, high, it's a word, red, white, blue, for example, they're words, it's categorical data. And if it can be ordered or ranked, it's ordinal categorical data. If it can't be ranked or ordered, then it's nominal categorical data. Okay, the categorical data usually is displayed or represented in tallies, frequency tables, column graphs, bar charts, and pie charts, etc. So here's some examples of some tallies, some column graphs, and a pie chart. Okay, so that's categorical data for you. Pretty straightforward. Collecting data, and the response is a word. Numerical data is when you collect data and the response is a number. So for example, you might be asked how many siblings you have. You're going to give a number response, right? So 2 or 3 or 4. So that would be an example of numerical data. Okay, so numerical data is one where data is given in number form. And numerical data can either be discrete or continuous. So the example I just gave of the number of siblings, it would be an example of discrete numerical data because it can give you an exact value. Okay, continuous numerical data can take any numerical value within a certain range. So for example, here measuring height of each student in a class. And yeah, it still takes an exact value, but it might be that they're 160.3 centimeters. Right, so it really, if you're measuring or timing something, it's usually continuous categorical data because it could, like take a form of a decimal. There could be lots of different responses. So for example, when you're collecting data from a class about their height, and you want to be very specific in terms of decimals, then you might not have anyone that's the exact same height. Whereas discrete numerical data, if you're looking at, for example, the number of siblings someone has in a classroom, then that could be very similar, okay? Or there would be lots of responses that are the same, like for example. So if you can count it and it gives an exact number, it's probably discrete numerical. If you're measuring it and it can take any range, then it's probably continuous numerical data, okay? That's a good way to think of it. These different types of numerical data can be displayed differently as well. Usually because you've got an exact value, discrete numerical data is displayed using a column graph or dot plot. So you can show just exactly how many people had, for example, 5 siblings in your classroom using the column graph or dot plot. Whereas continuous numerical data is usually groups. So you might actually look at grouping heights of students in a classroom and saying, well, how many students were between 160 and 170 centimeters, and indicating that on a histogram. And the difference between a histogram and a column graph, as you can see there, is a histogram doesn't have any gaps in between those columns or those towers, because it might be, like I said, 160 to 170, and then 170 to 180. I mean, those numbers aren't representative of what I'm actually saying, but that's the example I'm trying to use. So there shouldn't be any gaps in between those towers because it is continuous. Okay, so essentially that's the difference between the two types of data, categorical and numerical. Again, categorical, you're collecting data, it's a word response. If it takes order or there's a ranking, it's ordinal. If there's no order or ranking, it's nominal. If you're collecting data and the response is a number, it's numerical data. Usually if you can count it, it's discrete. And if you're measuring or timing it, for example, it's continuous. Okay, so hopefully that helps just to explain the difference in those types of data. And thanks for watching.